Welcome back. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm fine. It's kind of a overcast day out in Pacific Northwest, but yeah, you're in California, right?
No, I wish. Actually in Calgary, so
Oh, that's right.
close.
Well, it starts with a CA, right? Got it.
Yes. In the 51st state.
Yeah. I don't dare go into Canada because the mafia down here won't let me back in my own country.
Well, I was pleasantly surprised. I did end up going to down south to the US. I was speaking at a conference in Michigan. I was surprised it went well. People were scaring me. They said ICE agents are working right now, filling in at the TSA, and it was pretty seamless. It was a lot better than trying to clear security in Canada. So,
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The Canadian immigration at airports has always given me a hard time whenever I've gone up there to lecture. They'd take me down to a small windowless room and force me to show them all the books that I'm going to try to sell at the conference and hassle me. Like, "Ah, what are you doing?" Driving across,
Oh,
no problem, but arriving at a Canadian airport twice now, I've all been strip searched. It's been, you people are really rough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they probably have some information on you, so they're
Yeah,
giving
yeah.
you a
Well,
hard time.
I am on a no-fly list, so they picked that up.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, we talked about the war last time, and that was almost a month ago. And I mean, there's been some small changes, I suppose, but not a lot. What are your thoughts on how things are transpiring now? I just saw today, as we speak, that the ceasefire has been extended. So it's supposed to expire tomorrow, Wednesday, April
Yeah.
22nd.
Yep.
So that's been pushed out. So what's going on? I know last time, not many people were talking about it at the time, but you pointed out that this quickly had become an economic war, much to Trump's chagrin and how he thought things were going to play out. But yeah, what are your thoughts with how everything that's transpired over the last little while here?
Well, the overall thought, I think, is that it's a long game versus a short game. Trump is
Mm,
really has to have a result, a good result, and very soon because of the electoral process here in the United States. The
mm,
Iranians, if they can just hang on and keep their people fed and a few lights on, are playing a long game. And you have to say that their hand is stronger than Trump's at this point
mm,
because no matter what happens, the Strait of Hormuz, of course, is narrow, and there's no way that the U.S. Navy can get rid of every small drone or speedboat with a bomb in it or whatever that can creep out at night and blow up a tanker. Basically, Iran controls the strait no matter how many destroyers we put in there. Um, we will hurt them by stopping all the Iranian shipping going in and out of Iran's ports. But the Iranians have absorbed a good deal of pain already. There's
mm.
no reason to think they can't absorb a lot more. I mean, after all, these, like I think I pointed out last time, the drones that could stop a ship will fit in your living room, they cost as much as an automobile. I mean, Iran has lots of them. Um,
Mm.
and a tanker holds what, 750 million dollars worth of oil. So matched against a drone that costs $419.95. I mean, come on, I can do the math. Um,
Mhm.
so I think one has to say that in this this battle of wills, if you will, this
Mm,
tug of war, that I'd bet on the Iranians.
mm.
Also, I think it's a lot of people are now openly saying it, basically, that Trump is nuts, that he's just a loose cannon. He really doesn't know what he's doing, um,
Yeah.
and his crazy middle of the night posts, and insulting the Pope and all that kind of stuff. It's like he's nuts, and his own people have got to be concerned because if you're a Navy guy, you don't want the commander in chief to send your ship into something that's suicidal or will never work. And
Mm-hmm.
there's still some very competent people left in the U.S. military. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't all, they weren't all fired, and they didn't all quit. Uh, and they must be really worried right now because they
Mm-hmm.
know that if you send a ship into the Strait of Hormuz, a destroyer, say, or a destroyer escort, they're not going to send an aircraft carrier up there, of course, but a small ship. It's within range of short range missiles and drones. And there's no way that the U.S. can get rid of all those attacking drones. There's just no way. We can destroy
Mm-hmm.
90% of them, but it just take one to blow the bow off an American destroyer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe I'd like to kind of go in order in terms of timeline since we last spoke. But even before we spoke, you talked about a lot of people haven't quit. But one person that has quit and has been vocal has been Joe Kent, who was the former anti-terrorism lead in Trump's administration, and he quit pretty much right after this war started. And he's been very vocal about the strategy here and the choices. Um, not a lot of people. I mean, he's getting a lot of airtime now on podcasts, but not a lot of people are, at least from my view, emphasizing the message he's putting out there. What are your thoughts around his role and how honest he's been about what he was noticing within the administration?
I think he's doing a good job. I mean,
Mhm,
there's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, but Kent has the street cred. He has the credentials, and he should be listened to.
mhm,
And if he's pessimistic about what Trump is doing, then I think one should listen to him.
mhm,
And he recognizes, as I do, that this is an economic war. It's not military. There's no question the American military in the Gulf was far stronger than the Iranian. No one doubts that.
mhm,
But, I mean, I don't think Trump even understood last January that the Iranians would block the Strait of Hormuz. And yet everybody who strategizes in the Middle East told him that was the case. And we knew
mhm,
that 20 years ago.
mhm.
You
Yes.
just look at a map, and any fool can see that that's a choke point.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and you talked about him being a loose cannon and his late night tweets. I think again, going in order, he got a lot of flack for the one he put out on Easter Sunday, the expletive laden one, and one can make the case that that was prior to the ceasefire coming into place and Iran agreeing to opening up the strait. And then Trump came in and said he was going to put a blockade in there, and there's been a lot of back and forth. Um, are his tweets having an effect? There's obviously conversations around the timing of these messages with the market and how quickly the market is reacting. And there's a lot of speculation that there's money, a lot of money at play here, close to him as well. What are your thoughts around all of that and the timing and just the approach around all of this?
Well, the corruption of what's going on, the economic corruption of Trump and his family and his acolytes is like it's so open, it's in your face. They aren't even trying to hide it. I mean, sometimes even minutes or if not hours before one of Trump's tweets that will make the stock market go up or down, people in the Trump orbit are notified. And they buy and they sell, and they're making millions of dollars off this. I mean, this used to be called criminal, right? I guess Trump plays by his own rules. So we're now
Mm,
looking at a criminal conspiracy, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of stock market manipulation.
mm,
So there's that. I'm more concerned about the geopolitics of it. I mean, people have always lined their pockets, but what the Trump is doing is so friggin' obvious. It's like totally in your face. It's like what?
yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
But
So,
the Iranian people are tough. I mean, the Persian Empire has been around for a long time, and it's pretty clear now that the Revolutionary Guards are probably the controlling force within Iran. The new guy, the new head mullah, the son of the one that was assassinated, doesn't seem to have a lot of direct power, but we don't know because the Iranians have decentralize their leadership after they realized that if they didn't do that, they were going to lose everybody. So, I
Hmm.
mean, the big challenge for the Iranians now is simply communicating with each other. They can't very well all gather in a living room someplace, or no place is safe for them, and their
Hmm.
communications will all be intercepted. And so we're back
Hmm.
to where the way Osama bin Laden used to operate. He would only send messages on pieces of paper and with with human couriers on motorbikes, and so the
Yeah.
Iranians are doing that now. But Iran is a huge country, so they've
Hmm.
got their problems too. But on the other hand, as I said, it's pretty clear now that while the U.S. has pretty much destroyed the Iranian Navy and what was left of their Air Force, they haven't destroyed it all. I mean, we did shoot down two of American. I mean, the Iranians did shoot down two American jets.
Yes.
With apparently low-level shoulder-fired missiles, which cost what $750 a piece. I mean, oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
So the military part of it, we're just going to have to see, and I don't know how long this new extension of the ceasefire will last,
Mm.
but I'm pretty sure that Trump will blink first.
Mm. Well, so with the ceasefire, let's talk about that for a bit because there's been all kinds of mixed messages, right? At times, Iran wanted Lebanon included in this because there's that war and
Yes.
expansion going on between Israel and Lebanon, and then that's been an ongoing conflict, if we want to call it that. So, what? How do we piece that in here? And then there's constant conversations, or at least narratives I'm hearing that they agree to a ceasefire and then one party doesn't follow through. And at least in terms of the parties that are falling through are Israel and the US, even with the blockade piece, which caused a bit more, I guess, conflict over the weekend too. So are these ceasefires actually being adhered to, or is it just conversations and then nothing's really happening?
The ceasefire in Lebanon is, I'm not saying it's a joke, but there's still a lot of fighting going on, and the Israelis aren't giving up. If a missile comes in fired by Hezbollah, they're going to respond. And Iran says, well, if you keep doing that, then we're not going to abide by a ceasefire with the United States. I think in many ways it does serve the Iranians' strategy because it just gives them an excuse to keep BSing the United States about ceasefires. I mean, when Trump made that social media post saying we have a ceasefire, they're going to give back all their uranium, will da 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 da. The Iranian spokesman simply said Trump made 7 statements, not a single one was the truth. So that
Mm,
tells you all. I mean, the whether or not Iran will send some people into a room in Pakistan, I have no idea. But if they do, I don't think they're going to be serious. Not now. I mean, they only have to wait, what, 4 more months or so. They can just hang on. They do have the highest cards. They really do.
mm,
We,
mm,
the fact that we have an overwhelmingly superior military, it's not
mm,
irrelevant because a whole lot of more Iranians are going to die, maybe even die of starvation or lack of drinking water. Um, but like I say, they're very tough people. They've been around for a long time. This is
mm.
not Venezuela. These
Yeah.
are tough people, and they understand perfectly well, just like the North Vietnamese did in the Christmas bombing of Hanoi. They understand that time is on their side, and I
Mm,
think that's true. I think everybody, including the stock market, should understand the time is on the Iranian side, and
mm,
the the Trump can tweet all he wants and threaten to blow them back to the Stone Age or whatever his latest language is. Um, but that's just Trump, and I'm not even sure people take him seriously anymore.
mm,
This
mm.
current
Yeah.
extension of the ceasefire happens, does that mean that the Iranians will meet with the president's son and our Secretary of State in Pakistan? I don't know. That's not clear
Mm,
yet. But
mm,
if they do meet, I don't hold much hope for negotiations because if I was an Iranian strategist, I would say, hey, just string them along, keep stringing them along. If we can get them to take these long trips to Pakistan to listen to 7 hours BS back and forth, we're winning.
Mm. So, in help us understand. So, there's a couple of things you said there. One is Trump. No one's taking him seriously. And last time you and I chatted, you'd given the example of the tariffs and how he was escalating those, especially with China. And then he would just come out and basically say, "Didn't mean it. I'm
Yeah,
taking back what I said."
yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of been a bit of the narrative with this war too. So, is that what you're alluding to? And then how are the Iranians winning? I know you're talking about the stock market, but is this strictly an energy and oil play here, or there's more behind the scenes we
Oh,
don't
there's more.
understand?
There's
Yeah.
more. Yeah, I think the Iranians, they're playing a long game, and they could even up ahead. I mean, the country's blown to pieces, but geopolitically, they could end up ahead because Trump has got to do something before the
Mm,
November elections in the United States. And if he sends all of his ships and planes in and takes out what's left of the Iranian infrastructure and kills 50,000 Iranians, including school children, Iran is going to is going to restart its own attacks on its neighboring countries,
mm,
and it can do that. It doesn't have to blow up an aircraft carrier. It just has to finish blowing up the rest of oil facilities and natural gas facilities in Qatar and the UAE, who are going to be screaming at Trump to stop it because they have got no defenses. And they used to be our allies, and they need to be our allies in the Middle East. I mean, but if the UAE and Qatar and Bahrain and Saudi Arabia even are all screaming at Trump to stop because their own economic situation is being pummeled by $500 drones sent across the strait by Iranians, that's a real problem for Trump. He can't ignore
hmm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you talked on the expansive, especially with the G7, right? You look at the Gulf countries and the impact that this is having on them. What about China? We're not talking enough. I mean, there is conversations now about the impact of China and how they may play into this, but what is the role that China can play or not play and watch the US just fall apart from a distance?
Well, first of all, China would like nothing more than to weaken the United States. And that's already happening just for the sheer fact that we're using up vast supplies of military equipment that otherwise would be out in the Pacific as part of our barrier against Chinese expansions in the South China Sea. Um,
Mm,
so already they're winning militarily. The question for China is oil because they get an awful lot of their oil from Iran. And now they're not. And so that's a
mm,
real problem for them. And how they react to that's going to be interesting. Will they play the rare earth card again, for example? They
mm,
could. I mean, because that's their high. Just as oil is the Iranians' high card, the rare earth minerals that China controls global market of is a high card for in terms of geopolitics for the Chinese.
mm,
So I don't know which way the Chinese are going to go. I suspect that they are probably slipping arms into to the Iranians. Um, I wouldn't be a bit surprised
mm,
because they don't want to see this go on much further either because having a huge percentage of their oil supplies at risk or even stopped is not good for
mm,
them. They're
mm.
suffering as
Yeah.
they are so dependent on Iranian oil. So what
Mm,
do? They buy it from Russia? Well, maybe now they can because Trump has lifted the sanctions on Russian oil. Isn't that great? All of a sudden, we're giving the Russians billions of dollars in Chinese currency, and we're supposed to be using sanctions to bring Russia to its knees. We're doing exactly the opposite.
yeah. Yeah. So a lot of these players, like I can appreciate the impact this is having on China from an oil supply perspective. But then you factor in even Russia, they could just sit and watch this thing
Oh
go
yeah.
down because Russia's probably benefiting the most out of all of this, just through the lifting of the sanctions.
Oh, absolutely. Russia, I mean,
Yeah.
they couldn't be happier. Putin couldn't be
Yeah.
happier. He can sell his oil now and use the funds to buy missiles to pummel the Ukrainians, and no one's going to stop him. Trump isn't going to stop him from doing that.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, where is the winning cards on the U.S. side? It's hard for me to see.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of people like Pete Hegseth think they're winning just because we're killing a lot of people. I mean, that man is a monster, Jesus.
Mm.
Uh, but killing a lot of Iranians isn't winning a war. There's no geopolitical benefit to killing a lot of Iranians. It just makes America look like a monster.
Mm. Before we move on from, there are a couple of things I want to talk about in terms of strategy, but I do want to touch on one more thing with China. At what point do they start going after Taiwan and taking advantage of this situation?
Good question. They're waiting. They're waiting and to see how all the mistakes that America is making and learning from that. They're also learning from the fact that our warfighting capacity is pretty extraordinarily good. The
Mm.
Chinese were scratching their heads about that. I mean, our use of our airplanes and our aircraft carriers has been really effective. I mean, we have taken out with some precision refineries and desalination plants and whatever. Yeah, we took out a school or two, but at the same time, the Chinese are looking at the fact that the American military is pretty damn good. We better think about that. But on the
Mm.
other hand, they're looking at the fact that that is a very good chance that America will come out of this war with their tail between their legs,
Mm.
and the whole world will know that they've lost, they've been defeated, even though of
Mm.
course Trump will claim a victory. The Chinese
Mm.
are saying, "Hey, there's a relevance here. If they can't do well in Iran with all their military might, how the hell are they going to protect Taiwan?"
Mm.
So I think in the whole, a bad case for American fortunes in Iran will encourage the Chinese hawks to think more seriously about military operations against Taiwan.
Mm.
I think if I was a Chinese strategist, I would be just sitting back and weighing these two things. A, American military is pretty damn good. And two, even with their military, if they're getting their butts kicked in Iran, then maybe they aren't something we should fear so much in terms of helping protect Taiwan.
Yeah,
They got to weigh
absolutely.
these things. They got to weigh these things. And of course, they have to weigh it in terms of global economics. And and China would do is smart. They're not doing anything with the possible exception of secretive supplies of some arms, some military equipment to the Iranians. But if I was China, I would do exactly what they're doing, just
Mm.
sitting back, letting Trump
Yeah.
destroy himself.
Yeah. So let's talk about expanding on the strategy piece. So if terms of the Iranians, what can they walk away from with this, right? There's been talks about reparations, about tolls through ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Um, in terms of the nuclear development, where does that leave them? What are they asking for? What would be a winning strategy for the Iranians in terms of getting a deal done if one was on the table?
Well, if one was on the table, all the things you just mentioned would be high on the list of Iranian demands. How
Mm.
much they get for them depends on how much leverage they have on that table. Maybe we are overestimating the resources the Iranians have left. And maybe the Iranians, even the Revolutionary Guard, are more desperate than it seems that they are. It does seem that they're waiting the U.S. out is a really good strategy. What can they
Mm.
walk away from? Well, clearly Trump has to have a victory, and the Iranians are smart enough to give him that quote victory. So there'll be some solution. Maybe they'll do a nuclear deal, which will probably be about the same as Obama accomplished.
Yep.
About the same. We'll
Yeah.
buy 10 years, 15 years of no nukes, which is what Obama did. And of course, Trump will declare that a massive victory to get back to the original starting line. Um, in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, well, everyone, even the Iranians, say that they are surprised at how easy it was for them to all of a sudden control one of the world's most important strategic choke points. And why would they give that up? I mean, that's a huge resource.
Mhm.
And as we talked about last time, the Iranian side of the Strait of Hormuz is a bunch of mountains and caves and stuff. And what are you going to do? I mean, going there with boots on the ground would be horrendously expensive in terms of lives and money.
Mhm.
And as I've said many times over, the kind of missiles that the Iranians could lob at ships are would fit in your living room and cost a fraction of what a high-priced American anti-missile would cost. So the Iranians understand that they have. Oh, I mean, also they don't even have to fire a single shot. All they have to do is scare the insurers and scare the stock markets, and they can do that by well, they've already demonstrated by lobbing a couple of their small missiles against a couple of tankers. Didn't do a lot of damage, but it doesn't have to do a lot of damage. Ship captains are looking around and say, "Wait a minute, that thing could kill a lot of people, or I could lose my cargo of $750 million worth of oil." And the insurers are saying, I don't think we're going to let you, we're going to insure your ships. And so the ship owners are going to say, we can't sail unless we have insurance. And the
Mhm.
Iranians can do this. It isn't really a bluff. I mean, because they can do that. And as I think I said last time, if I was an Iranian strategist, I wouldn't even bother to use my missiles. I would uh, pack a couple hundred pounds of TNT into a speedboat in the dark of night and ram it into a tanker,
Mhm.
either suicidal attack or not. And like we damn near the Iranians damn near sank the USS Cole 20 years ago, and it was a speedboat with a bomb in the bow. Where did that cost? $150 at Walmart. I mean, it's like
Right.
it's asymmetrical. It's a grossly asymmetrical war going,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the Iranians are playing that card really well. Now they're suffering as well,
Yes.
and how much can they put up with um, uh, the lights out all the time, no power, maybe even no drinking water in some places, a lot of stuff blown up. Um, how much can they put up with that? Of course, they're going to say it's nothing, but it is
Mhm.
something. There's no question
Mhm.
about it. And we don't have a good, because of the lack of communications, we do not have, nobody has outside of Iran, a good idea of how badly the Iranians have been hurt. What is
Yeah.
clear is that we did not destroy their leadership. If anything, the Revolutionary Guards are more powerful than ever as a motive force. We
Mm.
come down to the other factor inside Iran, and that is popular rebellion. I think the very fact that when America blew up that school, killing 175 schoolgirls, by deliberately targeting that building with our vaunted intelligence, telling us it was a military facility instead of a school. Iranians just said, "That's it, that's it." I mean, man, I don't care how bad the mullahs are. I hate the mullahs, but they can't do that to us. And
Mhm.
so it's damping down a lot of the impetus for civil unrest. Still, the
Mhm.
Revolutionary Guard has to think about that, especially if they
Mhm.
start losing like drinking water and stuff. A lot of
Mhm.
people are getting very angry and they're going to
Yes.
demand results. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Revolutionary Guard. But I
Mhm.
think in many ways, the chances of a popular rebellion have diminished, not grown, since this war started, and largely because of the civilian damage that American attacks have caused.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one thing, at least I didn't appreciate it until I spoke to someone who is from Iran, and they mentioned that a lot of the protests that were being, I guess, shown here in the Western world were because of the economic situation, which has only gotten worse with
Yeah.
this war. It's not necessarily an outcry against religion, even though there is religious oppression there. from that perspective. But it is in a situation around the economy which has only gone worse, and that, I'm sure the local civilians know who to blame for that, and it's not their own leadership.
Yeah. I mean, did you see that picture? It was in a lot of the news of an Iranian protester, a female, who wasn't even wearing a headscarf. I mean, they got bigger things to think about.
Yeah,
Whether or not the theological police can arrest people for not wearing a headscarf. They got much more important things to think about. Uh,
absolutely.
so
Yes.
it's the Iranian people have, they're caught. I mean, they
Hmm.
don't like the mullahs. They don't like living under a theocratic government. They have been for a long time really upset about their economic conditions, caused in large part from Western sanctions for the last decade or so. So they have a lot to be uncomfortable and unhappy with. But on the other hand, they're like the citizens of Hanoi and the Christmas bombing. They didn't. There are a lot of them that are pretty unsatisfied with the number of war deaths among their people, the North Vietnamese people, and the bombing, American bombing of important facilities in North Vietnam. But when Americans pulled out all the stops and inaugurated the Christmas bombing in Hanoi, which was hugely destructive. I mean, that turned a lot of so-called moderates or so-called independents. That's not the right word. Turned a lot of North Vietnamese who had a lot of anger against their own government and focused that anger on the B-52s and not on whatever faults they found in their military and political leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of victory from Trump's perspective, there's been a lot of cases that have been made that he can even walk away from this war now and claim victory based on just everything that's been done, right? Like he's taken out the
Sure.
leadership to a certain extent,
Yep.
a huge population of the leadership, and then he's also gotten the uranium constricted, right, where it's below ground, probably dangerous to access at this point. Could he just walk away and say, "I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and as a result, we won"?
Oh, he could, and he will. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's how he operates. And everything you said is going to come true. If, in fact, the negotiations don't take place this week, next week, or if they take place and they fail again because the Iranians are playing the long game, and Trump is finally talked out of trying to obliterate the entire country, uh,
Mm,
the November elections are approaching, then he may very well just declare victory in exactly the way you said. We killed their top guy. We decimated a lot of their leadership. We've all but destroyed their navy. They don't have an air force. We destroyed 80% of their drone facilities, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a victory, man. That's a victory. And of
mm,
course, the Iranians are saying, well, yeah, but we got a leader. The Revolutionary Guard is still very much intact. Thank you very much. Yeah, you destroyed 80% of our drones, but 20% is more than enough just to focus on the Strait of Hormuz, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean,
mm,
the world will know the truth. The mega faithful in the United States, they will be conned by Trump, as they always are, and they will
mm,
join him in a victory celebration. He might have a parade on the mall. I mean, God knows the
mm,
guy's crazy
mm,
about American victory over Iran, even though Iran has roughly, what do they say, 800 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. Sure, it's buried under rubble, but geez, a bunch of big yellow machines, given a couple of years, can dig it all out and restart the centrifuges. Um, Nothing is to keep them from sending arms to the Houthis and Hezbollah. Um, you know, so it's hard to see Trump making the case.
mm,
But yes, he will make that case. And being Trump, he will convince his acolytes that he has won, and the
mm,
rest of the world would be laughing at him.
mm. At this point, is there any reparation to be done, even if he pulls out for in for the elections, or the damage has been done already to the Republican Party based on? going into the war to begin with.
Oh, the Iranians probably that's probably what they will give up if negotiations take place, because the idea of Trump paying the only people that pay reparations are losers, and we know what Mr.
Mm,
Trump thinks of losers. So
mm,
that's probably a negotiating point that the Iranians will not get.
mm,
And we're going to have to figure out how to rebuild their country. Maybe the way things go and how complicated things are, some other Gulf countries might help them rebuild. I mean, it's crazy. Um, so there's that. But Trump, Trump. I mean, the rest of the world is going to watch this and say, you know, sure, it's true. It's the Iranians have suffered a lot. People killed, buildings flattened, but they still have the uranium. They know how to make a centrifuge. They'll rebuild with centrifuges. May take them 5, 6 years, but they can do it. Um, they Nothing keeps them from continuing to support clandestine operations using the Houthis and Hezbollah. I don't know about in Gaza anymore, but certainly those two. Um,
mm.
so it's hard to it's really really hard to say that that the U.S. has won in any way that's credible to anybody but the MAGA base.
Mm. Yeah, and that's what I guess the question part of the question too is, does it make a difference then for the elections,
Sure, it does.
irrespective? Okay.
Because as we all know, Trump's poll numbers overall have nosedived, and his support for the war in Iran has also nosedived. I forget what it
Hmm.
is, but like 37% people approve of
Yep.
what he's doing in Iran. It'll get worse,
Mm.
especially since the Democrats are not stupid, and they will tie as tightly as they can $6 oil gas at the pump to the war in Iran. Well, gas is costing you $6.50 at the pump because of a blockade that your president has started on the whole Persian Gulf. And there's no oil. If the Iranians don't block it in the Strait of Hormuz, Trump is blocking it, and that
Yeah.
has a direct relationship on the price you're paying to put gas in your car. We all
Mm.
know that even the price of eggs 5 years ago was hugely important in the in Harris's loss. That the price of eggs. Well, what about the price of
Mm.
oil? I mean, the price
Mm.
of gasoline at the pump. Um, and the experts are saying that even if the strait was open now or in a month or two, it'll take months to restart everything
Yes.
because the people that refine it, the people that process it in the Gulf, have shut down their facilities and tried as best they can to protect them. It's going to take months for them to restart
Hmm.
everything, and
Hmm.
and then the markets have to recover. So we're getting very close now to the point where it's going to be impossible to bring the price of gasoline at the pump down before the first week in November.
Yeah. Yeah. So people are paying everywhere, right? And that's the unfortunate part.
People are
So
paying,
to
yeah,
your
it's paying everywhere, and as we all know, now we're all getting educated. It isn't just oil. Not only is 20% of the oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, but like I forget what the figure is, like 35% of the world's fertilizers come
yes.
from hydrocarbons that are processed in the Persian Gulf. And
Yes.
who does tell that to a wheat farmer in Kansas? Can't get you can't get fertilizers, and what's that going to do to the price of bread? Well, you tell him. I'm
Hmm.
not stupid. I can figure that one out. Um,
Yes.
so it's
Hmm.
gonna hit everywhere in the economy,
Yes.
and including everything that's grown in the ground that requires fertilizers.
Hmm.
Fertilizers, in many ways, most people don't realize this. The choke point on fertilizer is even more drastic than the crunch on oil.
Yes. And we won't see that impact to your point much later, but the damage is already happening now. But we're going to see that play out pretty quick here. And then even inert gases like helium go through that strait.
Oh, yes. We didn't even mention
Yeah.
helium. I mean, I didn't even realize that until I got into all the politics of it. But apparently, helium, as a byproduct of all this, also is constrained by the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
And something else I didn't realize, helium is what kids put in their party balloons, right? Well, no, yes, that's true. But apparently, helium has some very important uses, and for example, pharmaceuticals and other
Yes.
things that I don't quite understand. But I didn't
Yes.
understand how important helium is.
Yeah.
Um, and there was something about sulfur as well. I mean, in fact, it's like a whole lot of stuff
Yeah.
is
Oh,
constrained.
absolutely. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, sulfur is a huge play too, but I think there's a lot, right? And we're going to see supply chain disruptions all across the globe because of this, which we're not fully comprehending at this point until it hits us.
Agreed. Yeah.
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 Well, John, I think this is a pretty good update based on the last few weeks. I'm sure we'll have more of these conversations as things play out, but I appreciate, as always, your thoughts, your wisdom, and your insight into this. And hopefully, I mean, at the end of the day, we're not in the seat of the decision makers, but it is interesting to always understand the full picture, right? This isn't, like you said, just about oil. This isn't just a military operation. There's more at stake here and more at play, which we're starting to
Yeah.
understand. So hopefully people are getting more educated around it.
I hope so too. I think we've dealt with some of this necessarily with a broad brush today, but that broad brush is important. Nominally small things like a crunch on sulfur and helium, for example, people don't even think about that. The question of fertilizer in Kansas farmers, the fact that 100 pounds or a couple 100 pounds of dynamite in a small boat in the middle of the night in the Strait, all these things are important. People need to understand all that. And they need to understand also that Trump may very well be nuts, and there's no one in the White House now. There's no adults in the room, and that's something else to think about. So I suspect if we do this again in 2 weeks, it could be a totally different conversation. I mean,
Well, yeah. I
it'll be
mean,
there.
like to your point, I know you messaged me after we did the last one and you said how things are moving really quick and they have, right? And I think we're starting to understand the situation better, how other players
Yeah.
might be get involved or might be impacted, as well as some of the other consequences we'll be seeing from a supply chain perspective that people didn't initially identify. So the more
And yeah,
information,
yeah,
yeah, the
and
more
you
we're
are
learning.
very right to bring up China. I mean, the impact Russia's role in this is pretty clear. And China, they're playing their cards very close to their chest. But some things are clear. They did depend upon Iranian oil. They have a global reach. They're perfectly capable of clandestine operations and arms supplies to Iran. They still have the high card of their rare earth, control of rare earth minerals, and all the other geopolitical things that we've been tussling about with them for the last decade. So what the Chinese are up to is watch the Chinese. That's the other thing I would put in. Not just the helium and the sulfur. Watch the
Yes.
Chinese and try to figure out what they're doing because that may lend some more, not wisdoms. That may lend some more information on what's going on.
Yeah, but to your point, they've kept their cards pretty close to their chest for a really long time. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond if they
Well, they're
do. But yeah,
they're smart, and
yeah.
anything that weakens the United States is to their benefit. That's another thing you can put on a bumper sticker.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks again, John. Really appreciate the chat. And I'm sure we'll continue to talk about these things as
Yeah.
there's more
No, you wanted to do
development.
these on a regular basis, and this is a great occasion to do that because things are changing by the week. Just
Yeah.
like artificial intelligence, that's something else we could talk about. That's changing almost by the week too, as more and more people are beginning to speak out about the dangers.
Yeah. No, that would be something to also talk about next time for sure. Yeah, with AI and all the growth and investments going into that in
Yeah,
behind the scenes, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. No, there's lots to talk
Absolutely.
about, and yeah, you're a terrific interviewer and host, and I hope that people are listening to this and pick up a point or two that they haven't thought about before from our conversation. And obviously, I will keep following these things closely, and you do as well. So our interactions, I hope, are useful.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, well, thanks again, John.
All right.